Well, I'm Jaden Jefferson, and welcome to Community Focus. I'm joined right now by Toledo City Council candidate Tom Names. You're running for an at-large seat on City Council.
Correct.
I've seen your name on the ballot before when you've run in previous years. Can you tell me just about yourself and why you're running this time around?
Well, I love Toledo. I've moved here many years ago, over 30. I grew up in New Jersey, and I love the town, and I want to give back to it. But I don't think the government is providing traditional government services, and those are my priority issues right now.
What are some of the services that you see not being taken care of that need to be taken care of?
Well, the most obvious and the number one complaint at Engage Toledo is the roads. So basically infrastructure, and that includes the water treatment plants. They're finally catching up to that, and if they were on top of it, we wouldn't have had the disaster 10 years ago. Then you have the Arlington Avenue sewer debacle. And if they had any idea of this coming, there was a big hole over on Boucher football field that was in 2022. They should have been planning for that. It was an 84-inch culvert that fell down. A new issue that's, of course, I predicted that there's a lot of agitation that it came to a head in the different classes of people in Toledo. And during COVID, I predicted it would come to a head, and I'm talking about the violence in the city. It's gotten under control, but I don't think it can be nearly as good as it could be. I support the four previous mayors' 12-point plan. One of the new issues that's coming up is housing, and I spent a lot of time reviewing the comprehensive plan, which talks about housing. I submitted comments to the authority, that consultant that put it together, and I also sent it to City Council, and I've never gotten the resolution of those comments. There's going to be a meeting about housing, a forum tomorrow that I'll be attending, and I'm prepping for that now.
And you mentioned a few different issues there. I mean, violence prevention, housing, and of course, infrastructure. Just to expand on the issue of housing that you mentioned, certainly City Council has some ability to impact that problem, but of course, a lot of it is out of City Council's hands. We have seen a lot of affordable housing projects that have really spurred in just recent years. Do you like what you're seeing, and what do you see your role on Toledo City Council being in order to continue that momentum?
One of the things City Council does have control of is the planning and zoning, and I'd like to see more of it planned for permanent home ownership. We already have too many rentals, and I was very critical of the comprehensive plan, saying we need like 2,000 more rental properties. Why do people have to live in rentals? To me, rentals signifies loss of personal wealth. You're just writing checks and giving the money away. You're not building personal wealth in equity in the housing. There's various options we could look at rather than rentals. We have a lot of raised properties that would support tiny houses, inexpensive, individually owned houses. This would also prevent the city from having to mow these vacant lots, and it would add to the tax structure. You could do condominiums. Why does it have to be rentals? I think already there's too strong of a connection between this developer down in Columbus, who's built several properties, rental properties here in Toledo. Why doesn't he build condominiums? I'm getting old, senior citizen, and there's a lot of aging in the community that would like to downsize. And I was looking at the Lofts residents in the colony, and they're all rentals. That would be ideal for me if I could get in there. But Google it, condominiums in Toledo. It's practically none. Another option here is we have some aging apartments that the out-of-town landlords are neglecting, and that's caused quite a rift. Well, the, the the tenants should do something about that and not just complain. I would like to see city push to turn these to maybe through the land bank to absorb these, insist the landlords crack down on the landlords, make them livable, or if not, purchase them and turn them into co-ops.
A lot of the properties are owned by out-of-town owners, and it's difficult to hold those owners accountable. So if you're given a position on city council, how would you do that?
You can talk about the there's an organization, the Real Estate Owners Association, and they have recommendations. There are things on the book, tenants' obligation and landlords' obligations, and that would be where I'd look at first.
Infrastructure being one of those concerns you mentioned, City Council each year has to put together a budget, decide how much money it's going to spend with regard to infrastructure. And so if you're in that budget process in the room where it happens, when those conversations are being held, what would be your recommendations to fellow members of council?
I think I'm a conservative, and we would be looking at the budget from a conservative point of view. I think there's some things that they're doing. We have too many departments, Department of DEI, that's a tool for achieving purposes. What is the purpose for that? Why do we need a department to manage a tool? We have too much doing filling positions. Why do we need outside consultants to fill positions, to do these studies? Why doesn't the individual departments do these studies? So there's if I get in, I'd look very hard at some of these alternate sources of money.
And those things you just mentioned, study and research, as well as Department of Diversity and Inclusion, very small amounts of money that are being allocated to those couple of things. And so where would you get the money to do road repairs that aren't being done now by making very small cuts?
We still need to look to the state and federal governments, ODOT, to get the grants passed. That's always a big challenge, but they should continue to do that for the large amounts of money. I think we squandered the $180 million a few years ago in the ARP plan.
Those American Rescue Plan Act dollars.
American Rescue Plan, that's correct. And I where did the money go to? I remember going to one of those meetings, and that lady had a big blackboard. Okay, we're going to write this down. We're going to collect this, and we're going to do that. I'd like to see a resolution of all those so-called citizen inputs and see what happened, how they were rejected, why were they rejected. I think it was just a dog and pony show, and we do too much in city government just for show like that. We spend a lot of time putting on entertainment. That's not the bread and butter of what government is supposed to be. So you can call me a very conservative. I'd like to see us go back to conservative roots when we talk about how Toledo is run.
Currently, the city is running on a deficit, which is attributed to a lot of problems. One of them could likely be the fact that the city is shrinking. And so given that, how would you spur population growth in the city of Toledo? Because no one's been able to do it since 1970.
Yeah, I ran before, and I wrote, I think, a sort of an op-ed piece for them, and I said the things that you attract people to the town applies for living here. Residents also applies to companies and businesses and economic growth, and we want safe neighborhoods, clean neighborhoods, good roads, good schools, and all of those things are wrapped up in some of the issues that we talked about here already. We want something to be attractive. The things that I like that Toledo has always had is the Mud Hens, the Museum of Art, the zoo, the Metro Parks. These are all first-rate attractions to Toledo. It's these things that are fundamentally the responsibility of government providing that are not being provided, and I'd like to see them correct that.
What are some other priorities you would like to address if elected to City Council?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily City Council, but I've been with the advocates for Clean Lake Erie. I think that needs to be cleaned up. It would lower the costs of treating the water if we didn't have to worry about all of the contaminants from the farm runoffs. I have a different point of view on that. Ban the CAFOs and all of that. I'd say
Those confined animal feeding operations.
exactly. Yes, thank you. The CAFOs, confined animal feeding operations, they should be able to do what they want, but there should be a restriction on what they have allow in their runoff, and their tile runoff systems should be monitored and restricted, and let them worry about what they do on their farm, and not get into, it's their property, they have a right to do what they want on their property.
Well, and on that issue, that's where you see the state of Ohio become part of the conversation, because the state of Ohio has a large responsibility in that area. And so what would you approach that issue with if elected to City Council in terms of the conversations with state officials?
They recently passed what they call a discharge, allowed discharges, and it did not actually put limitations the way I wanted them to be put on it, and I complained about that, and I made comments about that. I would like to see that happen. The H2O program, Ohio H2O program, is just giving the money farmers, which may or may not be addressing these issues. It may take a while to determine, but why should we pay somebody not to pollute? You know, do we pay citizens to put their garbage out on the streets to be collected? No. They're responsible and accountable to themselves for taking care of that stuff. Okay?
Toledo City Council candidate Tom Names, I appreciate you coming on Community Focus.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the time, and I think Toledo needs to be more educated about the positions of the candidates that are running, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
I'm Jaden Jefferson. This has been Community Focus.